What's the worst case of overprotective parenting that you've seen? My parents were absolutely convinced I'd be kidnapped the second I talked to a stranger. At 15, I was the only teenager in our neighborhood who couldn't leave the house alone. While my 12-year-old brother Jake rode his bike to friends' houses and played at the park, I was locked inside like a prisoner. It's different for boys, Mom would say, checking my window locks every night. One conversation with a stranger and your life is over, Leah. The hypocrisy killed me. Every morning, Jake would grab his backpack and disappear for hours while I sat at our kitchen table doing online school. I begged them constantly, please let me walk to the mailbox. Please let me sit in our own backyard. But Dad would launch into horror stories about trafficking and girls who vanished after one friendly conversation. We're protecting you from predators, he'd say. Mom would nod along, adding stories from her true crime podcasts. My friends from middle school had given up inviting me anywhere. I felt that was how I'd spend my entire life, locked away in my room. That's when the pebble hit my window. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I was doing homework alone as always when I heard the sharp tap against glass. Then another pebble bounced off, this time leaving a tiny crack. My heart pounded. I knew opening that window was breaking every rule my parents had, but my hands moved on their own, fumbling with the latch I'd stared at 1,000 times but never touched. I looked down to find Ron from my online geometry class standing between our houses. Leah, finally. I've been calling your name for 10 minutes, he whisper shouted. Everyone wonders why you're never at school. My throat felt tight as I explained my parents' rules, my voice cracking on the word strangers. I expected him to laugh or leave. Instead, his face went soft. You mean you haven't talked to anyone? Like, at all? That's when I lost it. The tears came hard and fast, 2 years of loneliness pouring out while I ugly cried at my window. I just want one friend, I choked out. Just one person to talk to about normal things. Ron looked up at me for a long moment. Then I'll be your friend, he said simply. Same time tomorrow. I'll teach you stuff my brother teaches me, since that's what friends are for. He's in med school, by the way, and he knows a lot of really cool stuff. For 3 weeks, he came to talk to me while my parents took Jake to soccer. He would tell me about school while I leaned out as far as I dared, drinking in every word like water in a desert. He even taught me the Heimlich maneuver. My brother says everyone should know this, he said, demonstrating it on himself. I copied him from my window, wrapping my arms around an invisible person, practicing the sharp upward thrust. Higher, he corrected, right above the belly button. I did it again and again, my arms aching, until he nodded. Perfect. You could save someone's life with that. I remember thinking how absurd that was. I'd never even be around anyone to save. That same night at dinner, Jake was inhaling his steak like always when suddenly his fork clattered to his plate. His hands flew to his throat, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. No sound came out, just this horrible silent gasping. Jake, Mom said, then his face started turning red. Jake! She shot up from her chair, her plate crashing to the floor. Oh my god, he's choking! Dad jumped up so fast his chair fell backward. Jake! Jake! He started hitting Jake's back hard, these useless slaps that did nothing. Jake's face wasn't red anymore, it was purple, this awful dark purple I'd never seen on human skin before. His eyes were bulging, tears streaming down his face. Call 911! Dad screamed at Mom, but her hands were shaking so bad she dropped her phone. Dad grabbed him from behind, trying to do something that looked like the Heimlich but was all wrong. He was squeezing Jake's ribs, pulling at his chest. That's when Ron's voice hit me like lightning. Make a fist above the belly button, other hand over it, sharp thrust in and up. I ran and shoved Dad so hard he stumbled. Move! I grabbed Jake from behind, my arms barely reaching around him, found the spot above his belly button, made a fist, covered it, pulled in and up with every ounce of strength I had. A chunk of meat shot out of his mouth like a bullet and hit the refrigerator with a wet slap. Jake gasped, this horrible, beautiful wheezing sound, and collapsed forward onto his hands and knees. He was coughing, gagging, these violent whole-body spasms, but at least he was breathing. Mom crawled to him, pulling him into her arms, both of them sobbing. Dad stood frozen against the wall, his face white as paper, staring at me like he'd seen a ghost. 15 minutes later, the paramedics confirmed Jake would be fine, but only because I'd acted quickly. Your daughter absolutely saved his life. After everyone left, my parents sat me down. Leah, Mom whispered, where did you learn that? I told them everything. About Ron, the window, his brother's lessons. Dad put his head in his hands. So you talked to a stranger? And that stranger taught you how to save Jake? I nodded. The next morning, Mom removed every lock from my windows.